Well, good morning and welcome back to the Broadcast Retirement Network. I'm Jeff Snyder and this is BRN AM for Monday, November 30th, 2020. And our top stories today: financial advice rarely is one size fits all. And should parents lay down rules for children returning home? Well, joining me now to discuss this and more is Tara Falcone. She is the founder of Rise Up. Tara, always great to see you. Thanks for joining us on the program again this morning.
Thank you so much, Jeff. It's great to be here as always.
Yeah, it's great to see you. So let's jump right in because, there's people believe out there that there's a one size approach to financial planning. And when I say just people in general, maybe who are not familiar with the practice of financial planning and what it takes. And I wanted to get your response to this because you're the person that I really rely on for this type of information.
Well, I appreciate that. And I do think that even though the foundational elements of a financial plan kind of are really, the same across the line, have an emergency fund, make sure you're saving for retirement, all of those things. Ultimately, how much you should be doing and, at what stage and in what amounts really depends on your personal financial goals. So I like to say that we are all financial snowflakes when it comes to our money. We all are very unique in terms of what we want out of our money, what we want out of life. And so ultimately, even though those kind of foundational aspects are the same across the board, how you apply them into your life really depends on what your goals are.
And there are certain, I think you're alluding to that there are certain principles that apply to everybody. And that is, you need something for tomorrow that you're presumably going to live for a period of time, and you need to take the appropriate plans. But as you said, we're all snowflakes. We all have different fingerprints. We're all very unique. And therefore, you as an individual need to either work independently or work with a professional like yourself or someone else to really lay out what your goals and objectives are through your lifetime.
Yeah, absolutely. And while those one size fits all goals or one size fits all rules, for example, the 50-30-20 budgeting rule can be a great place to start if you've never really done anything with your finances and you just kind of want to take one step forward. Ultimately, in order to reach your personal goals, it is best to work with someone like a certified financial planner, for example, to make sure that they're really tailoring your plan to your goals. And so that's why, I really recommend that anybody who is considering trying to make big moves in their life or going through some sort of large financial transition, whether that's graduating from college, getting their first job, maybe changing jobs, moving across the country, any of those types of major life transitions, that you really sit down with a financial professional to say, hey, where am I today and how am I on track to reach my goals?
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. And I think, it's a two-way street here, Tara, because you as an individual, whether you make $1 million or you make $50,000, you need to take control. And you can't wait and say, okay, well, when I make more, this is the excuse you always get, is when I make more money, or earn more money, I should say, because we don't print money here, at least I don't. But when you earn more money, you're going to take steps to save for your future. That's kind of an ostrich type of mentality. That's a mentality of paying it down, pushing the can down the road when time really is on your side when you're a younger person. That's just the reality.
Yeah, absolutely. That's an avoider's mentality like you're talking about. And really what it comes down to is if you can't manage $1,000, you're probably not going to be able to manage $10,000, $100,000 very well either. They say more money, more problems. And I think in that case, when you're not fiscally responsible, that can be what ends up happening. And so the best thing to do is create those little habits now with the small amounts of money that you may have, call them micro habits, daily habits. And then as you start to earn more, you're going to be able to actually get more out of those additional dollars that you're making because you've already got those smart habits in place.
And Tara, we get deluged. You turn on the major, CNBC or Bloomberg or some of the network, and you get deluged with a lot of financial information, right? The Dow Jones Industrial Average did this. The S&P 500 did this. It's really hard for lay people, and look, people are smart, they're pursuing their self-interest, but it's really hard for people to kind of take all that information in. What's a good rule of thumb in terms of managing that flow of data and figuring out what is pertinent to you? Is it working with a financial advisor, or are there ways that you can manage this?
Yeah, I think a lot of those pieces of data, such as where the S&P closed today, is really not relevant for the average individual because we're all really focused long term, right? Our biggest financial goals in each of our lives is really going to be saving for retirement so that we can ultimately stop working at some point. While the daily close of the S&P does matter in the long run, what is happening today does not. And you really shouldn't be focused on those things or making any, decisions based on those things because you have a long-term horizon. So what I really recommend is to make sure that you're focused on your core needs first. So are you able to meet your current financial needs? Are you then also saving and investing for your future financial needs? And if those two things are kind of in place, then you can start maybe to pay attention a bit more to the financial media and to what's going on, maybe in a brokerage account that you have, kind of more day trading or, trading individual stocks or something. But it's really about those foundational aspects of your financial life that you need to get in place first and kind of, put blinders on and don't pay attention to that other stuff until you have that safety net beneath you.
Tara, last question for the segment. You work a lot with college students all around this country. What's the feeling right now? I just want to get the pulse, what you're sensing from these students. Last time you were on, you talked about the unique ways that they were learning and studying. But what's the sense, just kind of checking in? We're in the midst of a second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth wave of this pandemic where, we just finished the Thanksgiving weekend. How are students reacting?
Yeah, students are doing very well. They're quite resilient. A lot of them have made the most of this semester, whether that's been on campus, living at home, or living somewhere, in an amazing tropical location and studying with a bunch of friends in the same house. But they're really resilient. I think the questions that they have right now are, but what does this look like next semester? What does this look like next year? And if it's going to continue to be virtual until, we all have a vaccine and there's herd immunity and all these kinds of things, am I going to get any kind of a break on the tuition cost or the, how much I'm paying for this? Because ultimately, as much as administrators and teachers and professors are trying to make this a great experience for students, ultimately it's just not the same. And there is a question of, whether the value proposition is still intact and what that means for, for student loans or, whatever you're paying for tuition right now.
Yeah, I certainly agree. Well, Tara, I want to take a quick break, but when we come back, we'll talk about if you are living at home or you have a child that's living at home, should you set ground rules for them? You're going to want to stay tuned right here on BRN AM. Imagine a new television network that will make you richer, healthier, and in control of your financial future. This network is for the policewoman in Nashville, Tennessee, the baker in Dubuque, Iowa, the teacher in Lexington, Kentucky. We want to make the idea of savings and retirement culturally relevant. But what do you see as a defining issue of the midterms, especially for the smaller businesses? I mean, they are the lifeblood of the American economy. Featuring exclusive interviews, current affairs, and docuseries. 33 years old, you retired early.
The philosophy is money only matters if it helps you live a life that you love.
But you got to start thinking about retirement as soon as you get in.
The Broadcast Retirement Network will drive very high engagement with premium partnerships. So this isn't retirement and savings for your parents or grandparents. This is for all Americans. And we're going to change the way you think about money. Welcome to the next frontier of retirement and savings. This is BRN, the Broadcast Retirement Network.
Hi folks, Joe Namath here, and if you're on Medicare, this is important. You're now entitled to eliminate copays and get dental care, dentures, eyeglasses, prescription coverage, in-home aids, unlimited transportation, and home-delivered meals, all at no additional cost. Plus, your zip code may have coverage with a give-back benefit that adds money back to your Social Security check every month. Look, with the uncertainty of the virus and vaccines, you need to get everything you're entitled to. Here's the bottom line. Call to get significant benefits at no additional cost and see if your zip code has coverage with the Give Back benefit. Millions of people have trusted the Medicare Coverage Helpline. You can too. Call now. It's free.
Call 1-800-924-3920. That's 1-800-924-3920.
Welcome back. We're talking to Tara Falcone of Rise Up. Tara, thanks so much for staying with us this morning.
Yeah, same here. It's a pleasure.
So let's talk about it. Let's talk about some of these kids coming home from college, or maybe they lost their job and they're coming to live with their parents. And I guess the question for many of those parents out there, and I want to get your thoughts on this, is should they set some level of ground rules for the kids when they come back?
Absolutely. Well, first of all, I want to say that there's no shame in moving back home if you've lost your job, if your financial
Great.
circumstances have changed. Your living expenses, rent, utilities, all of those things that you need just to keep a roof over your head make up the bulk of most people's budget. And so, if you have suffered any kind of financial hardship recently and moving home is an option for you, don't feel ashamed about it to get back on your financial feet. However, when it comes to family dynamics, as you've mentioned, there can be some question marks about, how long are you going to be staying here? Will you be contributing to any of the household bills? All of those kinds of things. So I absolutely think that there needs to be honesty and transparency and some ground rules in place just so that everybody is on the same page with regard to the expectations of you, staying at home or living at home.
Yeah, actually, I was thinking about when you were chatting, I was thinking about calling my mother and seeing if my wife and I and our cats could move in. But in all seriousness, is this something where you say you charge your children, maybe you charge your children rent, and maybe it's not 1/3 of the mortgage, maybe it's just an amount so that there is a cost for you to stay at home. Like it's not a free lunch.
I think that really depends on, your child's situation. We were just talking about how there are no one size fits all financial rules. And I think that applies in this case too. If your, child is in a position where they can contribute to whether it's the mortgage or the rent or a utility bill or groceries or whatever, then absolutely, by all means, make them accountable to still be paying for some of their living expenses. However, if your child doesn't have an emergency fund, if they've just lost a lot of money, if they're not contributing for retirement yet, if they don't have those foundational principles for their financial life in place yet, then maybe you might want to, if you can afford it, you may want to view this as an opportunity to help your child get on their feet financially, and give them some leeway to maybe find another job, get a side hustle, start bringing in more income, and kind of beef up those savings before they go back out, into the quote unquote real world by themselves. But ultimately, that really depends on your child's situation.
Yeah, I like that you pointed out earlier on that this is it shouldn't be viewed as a failure. I stayed with my mother early on, right out of college, because I wanted to save and get my feet underneath me from a career perspective. But I don't think people should be embarrassed whatsoever, because whether you're 49 or 29, we all go through ups and downs in our lives. And therefore, it's important to at least understand that and not be depressed or lonely, because there's really here, Tara, a mental element to this. You can really go into a level of depression and feel down on yourself, and you shouldn't by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, money is one of the biggest sources of stress in many people's lives. And so this is absolutely impacting, many more people this year, specifically who have been furloughed or let go of, or, have lost a source of income in some capacity. But really, it takes a lot, and it's a lot of initiative and kind of vulnerability and swallowing your pride to say, hey, I need help. And if your parents or someone in your family is somebody that you can go to ask for that help and to give you that space to kind of get back on your feet, that's really a gift. And, you shouldn't be ashamed of asking for that. You shouldn't be embarrassed or depressed about it, but recognize it maybe as an opportunity for you to get kind of back in a better place than maybe you were even before any of this happened.
And you mentioned side hustles, and it seems like within our economy, gig workers or these side hustles are becoming very popular, regardless of your age, Tara. Whether you're a 20-year-old, a 30-year-old, a 40-year-old, even a 50-year-old or 60-year-old can engage in a side hustle. You don't necessarily have to do something that you were doing. So, for example, if you were in financial services and maybe got laid off, You don't necessarily have to find another financial services job. You could find a job that where your skill set, maybe you were in marketing, maybe you were in sales, that could translate into a side gig.
Yeah, absolutely. My husband and I just moved to the West Coast, and we recently started using TaskRabbit for these little things that we need done that we just, when moving, you don't have the time to do. And so, if you're handy, if you like to run and get groceries, if you, love driving around, there's any sorts of types of things that you can apply to start to do on TaskRabbit and get paid for your time. There's a 1 hour minimum for most things. And so, you set your rate and people will hire you to do stuff for them. It's pretty great. And you can do it all on your own time. There's also, the ability to sell things now through many different apps, Facebook Marketplace, OfferUp, whatever. I've made, I think it was over $1,000 just selling a ton of stuff that we had lying around that we didn't need anymore. So, if you're moving back home and you don't have space for all of your belongings anymore, one man's trash or whatever is another's treasure. And, you can make a little money that way too.
Yeah, I think my mother has been trying to get rid of my Fender Twin Reverb amp. And I love that amp, but she's been trying to get rid of it. So Mom, you can check out some of the marketplaces that Tara just mentioned. Last question here, Tara. What about some of the generational differences? You move back in with your parents. They're presumably from a different era, different mindset. A younger person will have certainly a different mindset. Do you see any potential, or how do you mitigate some of those potential clashes in terms of philosophy? Hey, you're not up at 8 o'clock. You should be looking for a job 24/7. These are things that my parents told me when I was early on in my career, that you should make it a job getting a job.
Yeah, well, just realistically, I would say don't look a gift horse in the mouth. If somebody is supporting you and keeping a roof over your head right now while you're in kind of a bad position, be grateful for that. If they have rules in their house or they expect certain things of you, try to be a little flexible there. But also figure out ways that maybe you can help them. I know, for example, whenever we go visit my in-laws, there's always some tech issue that my mother-in-law needs me to help her with, or some newfangled thing that she can do on the TV or on her iPad, and to make her life a little easier. So, they're helping you. Maybe there's some ways that you can help them and help relieve the tension as well, because you're both grateful for each other being there.
Yeah, well said. Well, Tara, always a pleasure chatting with you. Thanks so much for catching up with us, and best of luck with your new digs in California. Looks like I can see the sun shining behind you, so that's obviously a good sign. Have a great rest of the week and a great holiday season. We'll talk to you again very soon.
You too, Jeff. Thanks so much.
And that wraps up this episode of BRN AM. Have a topic of interest or someone you think we should talk to? Drop us a line. And don't forget, for all the news in retirement markets, technology, personal finance, so much more, check out our daily newsletter, The Morning Pulse. So until tomorrow, I'm Jeff Snyder. Stay safe, keep on saving, and don't forget, roll with the changes.
Are you being audited, and do you owe the IRS $10,000 or more in back taxes? Is the IRS threatening to take more of your money? Don't fight the IRS alone. The Tax Doctor is here to help you negotiate your tax bill and reduce your stress. The IRS can freeze your assets and seize your bank accounts, but you can stop these IRS actions. The Tax Doctor will work with you using our years of experience to represent your case to help you get the best resolution under the IRS guidelines. Help is here to deal with the IRS to reduce your stress. We've handled thousands of cases, so we know what we're doing. If you owe $10,000 or more in back taxes, do not call the IRS alone. Call a Tax Doctor now for a tax emergency analysis.
Call 800-224-6439.